I'm going to read some of this, and feel free to jump in and share if something rings a bell with you. So Shantideva is saying that having obtained this human existence, as you know, in Buddhism they talk about you can be born as an animal or be born in various realms and stuff, but the human realm is the only realm where you can find enlightenment. They say this world actually has just enough goodness and just enough evil to make you seek enlightenment. In other words, if you had it made, man, you had all the money in the world, no problems, never got sick, everything was great, you would be like never even thinking about improving yourself, right? Or if your life was so terrible and so bad and it was like scratching just to survive every day, you'd never have time to think about enlightenment. So the majority of the people in this life have just enough suffering and just enough goodness that will push you towards seeking enlightenment, right? And so in Buddhism they talk about not only is the human birth your one opportunity to do this, but you're born in a situation where you have time to hear Buddha's teachings. You live in a time where there was a Buddha, where the teachings do exist, and you live in a fortunate country where you're allowed to practice your religion, and all these things are so fortunate. So just if you get into that big study there, it's kind of like when you're feeling kind of down and depressed, you're like, wait a minute, I'm in a human body. I'm in a country where I can practice Buddhism. I'm of sound mind where I can understand the teachings. I got a lot going for me. I don't need to be sad or depressed. I need to get moving and practice my meditation, my walking meditation, my chanting, my spiritual reading, and that kind of stuff. Utilize this life. So Shantideva says he was born in a human realm and in the family of Buddhas, which means he heard the Buddha's teaching, so he became one of the Buddha's children. And it says, whatever actions I do now must be in accordance with the Buddha family. I promise to never disgrace or pollute this noble family. So being born into the Buddha's family, hearing the teachings, practicing these things, to never turn your back on that or disgrace yourself. That gets into, I know for me that I'm kind of hard on myself when I make mistakes. So, and I'm basically my worst enemy, man. Nobody attacks me like I attack myself, So we have this idea of perfection, but can we really reach it? Shantideva says he's born in the Buddha family and all this stuff. It probably took him innumerable lifetimes to get to a place where he can write something like this. And even throughout the text, he talks about how bad he screws up every day. You know what I mean? So sometimes we read a text like this, and we think, oh my God, or we see the Lama, even my Lama, or spiritual people. We often project this holiness or this goodness, but often we find out that they're living double lives, or they're screwing up, or something's happening. Being born in the human realm, there's going to definitely be imperfection. So while we hold up this high standard to ourselves, a lot of times we improve gradually over time, bit by bit by bit. Very rarely are we just gonna be enlightened and have this sudden flash of awakening. For the majority of people, it's gonna be a slow, monotonous, day in, day out. I wanna cuss you out, but I choose not to, just in this second. Whereas yesterday, if you would have caught me on a bad time, I would have cussed you out. You know what I mean? It's like, wow, I'm so proud of myself for not saying anything at that time. Or you're starting an argument with me and I walk away. Just get in the car and take off, or grab the dogs and go for a walk or whatever. It's like, damn, I didn't jump into that fight like I usually do, I was triggered and I was gonna say something, I held my tongue and I just left. That's badass. I didn't act on my emotions like I usually do. That's the gradual change of perfecting the mind. They actually in Buddhism call it training the mind. Basically what Buddhism is, in a nutshell, is training your mind to choose your thoughts and choose your actions, and that will improve your life. There's no magic to it. Yes, you can probably learn how to levitate or do magic powers or something, but none of that is going to help you as much as being able to control your own mind. And so with me suffering from depression, anxiety and stuff, the more I'm able to choose my thoughts. All right, we might hear a song today, guys. So So let's stop there for just a second and throw that out there. That seeking for perfection. Another thing I want to say about that is, if I can accept the imperfection in myself, I'm more likely to accept the imperfection in you. So how often do we come across some situation where somebody's acting like an idiot, but whether we even know them or not, we can assume that this is not their normal. We can assume that they go home and hug their kids and pay their bills and, are usually kind people, but had a long day at work, stuck in traffic, got bills overdue, whatever it is. If we can put that pause and say, you know what, I act like that too sometimes. I don't like to admit it, but I'm kind of a jerk too sometimes, so I'm going to give this person space and not react to this, Once again, that goes back to training the mind and thinking outside the box. So I want to throw that out there as anything that I said ring a bell with anybody. Imperfection, or giving people space, or not reacting or anything.
I have something.
Sure.
So when I started my teachings, especially, compassion was something that was really at the forefront of maybe possibly the first thing that I needed to learn. Because as I explained before, my whole thing was ego, very egotistical. And so I'm very good at the analytical meditation, not so much of the one point of concentration. And I used a lot of the techniques I was taught, imagining everyone as your mother.
Right.
Thinking about the kindness of others. Without somebody, building this chair, I wouldn't be sitting here. Without somebody, working on the lights, wiring this place up, building it from the ground up, like we couldn't use the space. And I got very good at it. And so for me, I don't tend to dislike people immediately. I don't usually hold things against them. I try, or usually it just doesn't really come up when they have issues. That's the first thing I say. It's like, think about what kind of day they're having. But then it went the opposite way, where anything I do wrong is condemnable. And anything I do wrong because I should know better, it's just absolutely horrible. And so while I'm able to give everybody else a break, then I'm just condemning myself. You did this, you did that, you did that, you did that. And that's brought me to a point of very low self-love. And so I'm kind of trying to dig myself out of that somehow. I'm not entirely sure how. I try to practice forgiveness, but I'm like, you should know better. Like, why should I have to forgive you? Right? If it were somebody else, like, it would be so easy to say, oh, they're human, they're perfect just the way they are. And we all have good and bad thoughts and good and bad actions. But for myself, I can't. I'm having trouble, lots of trouble doing it.
Thank you.
I think that it's just part of our human nature. Once we get past, when we're able to be more compassionate with others, it's like then we turn inward. It's just this. Even when I feel like I'm doing everything right, I continue to criticize myself, and even things that I have limited control over. I suffer from ADHD, and there are times where I'm all over the place. Like if I'm not staying present, if I'm not being mindful, I take medication for it, but I choose not to sometimes because I don't like it controlling me. But the other day I was cleaning the house a little bit, and it was our day. It was Sunday. We were so excited to have a day of nothing. Like, we had nothing going on Sunday, and I was just gonna mop the floors, and we were kind of just gonna relax. Well, I mopped the floors, but while I was doing that, I started the bath water for the dogs to give them a bath because it takes a long time to cool off. And finished mopping and sat down on the couch to watch TV with Kylie, and went back to go to the bathroom, and the entire bathroom was flooded. I mean, not just a little flooded, like it had gone down past the carpeting into the other bathroom, like it was bad. And I could not stop cussing myself out. Like, I felt so stupid. Why the fuck did you let that happen? You know better than to try to do two things. I mean, I was so hard on myself. But in the end of it all, we went and got a cleaner to suck all the water up, and everything looked really nice and clean afterwards, so that was nice. But you know, at the end of the day, I was exhausted. And but it was okay, you know, and I just reevaluated what I had done and what I need to be mindful of, and reminding myself that if it had been somebody else, I might have been upset, but I wouldn't have been so angry at them, because it happens. You're so hard on yourself. I mean, there have been times where I just have like looked in the mirror and then just looked away because I feel like a failure sometimes, you know, and it's like I would never judge somebody else like that. I mean, I just wouldn't, because how cruel, you know? So.
I've done that before, like left the water on, went to go take a shower, and I was like, oh my gosh, I really think I left the water on. And then I got out of the shower and I could hear like the kitchen sink, and I was like, oh my god, like I left it on, and I ran out there and it was like right at the top,
Oh my God.
where it was about to like flood, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm so thankful I caught it. So I totally know what you mean.
I didn't even remember I left it.
So what you said, it's kind of makes sense that as you go along the path and you realize the suffering of others, then you don't want to cause suffering for others, and that's why maybe you become so hard on yourself. Is to prevent yourself, because you see the suffering in everybody else's life, and so maybe that might be the motivation of trying to be so hard on myself, just so I don't cause more suffering. That was really helpful.
Sometimes I criticize myself for being too lazy or too not keeping up with something on the schedule. Like, I don't really listen to people, you know. I kind of draw back on that, you know. Just kind of beat myself up to it.
Thinking you should be doing more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I deal with that too. The other day I was like, Forrest, I feel like you don't support me, and he was like, what are you talking about? I do support you, and it's because I don't support myself, you know, like I feel like I need to do this, this, and this, and this in order to be a good mom, you know, or to be an adult.
Yes.
Yeah, so I completely relate to that.
I think that it's especially easy to be difficult on yourself when you're trying to make changes in yourself to be better. The reason I say that is, it's just like what they say in recovery. It's even if you fall off the wagon, that's not starting over. That's just one hiccup, because recovery is not linear. There's not a set time frame. Every day that you don't mess up is one day better, and it's hard for people to see it that way, because any abject failure means I screwed up, I have to start all over again. That's not the case. So I feel like, you know, I'm making a lot of changes in myself. I have been for the last about 5 years now, making big changes in myself, not being so lazy, trying to clean up after myself, and it's a daily struggle. You know, there are days where I mess up and I'll leave clothes all over the floor or something like that, and she'll get onto me, but I'll get right back on it and keep going, because, you know, it's not a linear process. It's not something that you know, you either stop or you don't. It's every day you just try to do better.
Thank you. The inner critic, right?
Tell your coworker like what just wasn't being how she normally is, like you could tell. Sometimes I feel like I can tell that too. Someone's just not being the same.
You can give them some space, some extra
Yeah,
space.
just back off a little bit. You know, if they're going through something, you don't know if they're going through something at home, what they're going through.
And, you know, like, I suffer from black and white thinking. Like, it's either this or this way. You know, like Diane told me when we started dating, I either had the AC full blast or I had the heater full blast. There was nothing in the middle, you know? And so she used to joke around about stuff like that I would do that was extremism. So I'm slowly, as I get older, starting to remember that other people have different personalities than me, but different backgrounds, like different ideas. I can see something so clearly that's right, like so clearly, like there's no way that this is not right. And yet, if I take time to hear where that other person's coming from, I'm like, oh shit, that's also right. And like I can see how you can see it that way. Okay, I got you now. Okay, it's just like that cubic inch of openness to say, you know, in this world, very few things are going to be exactly the way I think they are. Very rarely is that the case, that it's going to be exactly one way.
It was when I was living with my sister, it was very easy for me because I just learned about Buddhism and I gave her a book and I was like, hey, try this out. She immediately went vegetarian. She immediately, it was like she already knew most of it. She just picked it up in a way that I never could. I'm nowhere near as far as she is. She just innately had it. And so whenever I do get into that black and white, she always has a way of bringing me back on the middle path. That's what the Buddha would say.
Whoa.
Like, oh man, okay, you're right.
That kind of pisses you off too, though, right?
No, I love it.
Yeah.
That is compassion from her.
Mm.
Telling me, like, don't dig yourself into a deeper hole. Remember, like, and so it used to be very easy because she just already knew so much. Like,
Yeah.
She just would give me these little snaps, and I'm like, oh yeah, crap.
So Shantideva says, and this kind of makes me tear up a little bit. It says, just like a blind man discovering a jewel in a heap of trash, likewise, by some weird coincidence, an awakened mind, or bodhicitta, has been born within me. So he's saying, just as if a blind man was looking through a huge pile of trash, maybe he is at the, what do they call it, where they take all the trash? Like the dump, right? And the blind man's out there looking for something that he can use or sell or recycle, and he finds a jewel in all that trash. Shantideva is saying, that's like the likelihood of me discovering bodhicitta in this life. How precious, how rare, how beautiful it is that within this life, through all this rubbish that I've been through, I found this precious jewel of bodhicitta. Anybody have anything on that?
One thing, following last week's talk about bodhicitta and learning about it and everything, I found myself paying extra special attention to try to do kindness for others. Just holding doors, something like that I could think of. And it's really made my week feel a lot better. It's been a really rough couple weeks anyway, so it's really felt very good to start putting that into practice more and being mindful of it and everything like that. So I just wanted to say that last week's speech alone, or last week's get together, has really started making an impact already.
That's wonderful, man. Thank you.
How fortunate are we that we got to learn about it? Even if we don't perfect it, we know.
That's right. Remember, putting it in practice is the key thing. You can talk about it all day long, but Buddhism is hearing and putting it in practice. Hearing it, putting it in practice. Experimenting with it. Buddha says, and don't believe me. If it doesn't work for you, don't do it. Buddha says, don't trust anything I say. Try it. Try it yourself. If it doesn't work, move on. Refuge in the three jewels. I take refuge in the Buddha, the one who shows me the way in this life. I take refuge in the Dharma, the way of understanding and of love. I take refuge in the Sangha, the community that lives in harmony and awareness. Dwelling in the refuge of Buddha, I clearly see the path of light and beauty in the world. Dwelling in the refuge of Dharma, I learn to open many doors on the path of transformation. Dwelling in the refuge of Sangha, shining light that supports me, keeping my practice free from obstructions. Taking refuge in the Buddha and myself, I aspire to help all people recognize their own awakened nature, realizing the mind of love. Taking refuge in the Dharma and myself, I aspire to help all people fully master the ways of practice and walk together on the path of liberation. Taking refuge in the Sangha and myself, I aspire to help all people build fourfold communities to embrace all beings and support their transformation. Alright, so I'll ring the bell and we'll bow to the shrine 3 times. offering of flowers. This bread of flowers, fresh, hued, and fragrant, I offer at the sacred lotus feet of the noble sage. With flowers in great variety, the Buddha I adore, and by this merit may I gain release. Even as these flowers must fade, my body too will pass away. Offering of light. With lights brightly shining, dispelling the gloom, I honor the fully awakened, that light of the triple world, who dispels the gloom of ignorance. Offering of incense, perfumed with infinite qualities, the Tathagata, fragrant of face and form, I revere with incense sweet and penetrating. Offering of water. We offer water, symbol of purity, to the Buddhas of all times. May this water both wash away the obscurations of ignorance and sate the thirst of craving and aversion. Notes on mindful breathing. Anapanasati is mindfulness on respiration. Ana means inhalation and apana means exhalation. Concentration on the breathing process leads to one-pointedness of the mind and ultimately to insight, which enables us to attain liberation, freedom, and perfection. The Buddha practiced concentration on respiration before he attained enlightenment, but this beneficial meditation may be practiced by any person irrespective of religious beliefs. We will inhale through the nostrils normally, without strain, without force. While doing so, the mind may wander, but one should not be discouraged. When a wandering thought is detected, label it as thinking and return to the breath.